happening tonight in Vancouver.
The end goal is to put these people away, put them in a cold jail cell for a very long time.
Homicide investigators confirming a 23-year-old man was shot and killed in Burnaby's Market Crossing complex Thursday night. It's another incident adding to a string of gang-related shootings in very public places across the Lower Mainland. Just ahead, an update into the investigation.
A North Vancouver family says they're one step away from getting their permanent residency in Canada. But they believe there's one thing that's slowing it down. Their son has autism.
You can hold our PR as long as you need, but don't discriminate our children.
So we've got one there, one here, and then another one right next door after that. Empty retail spaces. And now downtown Vancouver's BIA is warning it could take years to recover.
I am concerned about, the longer this drags on.
This is City News everywhere.
Oh, you like this?
A North Vancouver family is one step away from getting their permanent residency in Canada. But as they go through the process, they believe there's one issue that's slowing them down, and it has to do with one of their children.
Children like Liam should not be discriminated, period.
The family of 4 applied for permanent residency back in June of 2019. Everything was going well until they were asked for their medical information in November, and they disclosed their 4-year-old son Liam has autism.
I noticed that we all passed our medicals except from Liam, and it was stating that he's an excessive demand and he might be inadmissible.
Canada's immigration policy dictates that foreign nationals are deemed medically inadmissible to Canada on health grounds if their condition is expected to cause excessive demand on health or social services. But in 2018, a new policy was adopted, which stated children with intellectual disabilities such as autism or Down syndrome will no longer be denied due to special education needs. It's been over 2 years since the policy was changed, and Liam's father is frustrated that the new rules don't seem to be fully implemented.
Why they're still considered as an excessive demand? You made that policy to exclude them. Why do you still mark them? Why do you flag them? That's not right.
Knowing that the immigration says to change something for making life better and didn't actually do anything. It's just something they put online, we call it. It's not happening in life.
In a statement to City News, the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada says reducing barriers for people with disabilities is a priority for the Government of Canada. We are currently advancing a regulatory proposal for consideration by the government that would seek to regularize the 2018 changes. Provincial nominee program permanent residence application processing times are currently listed on our website as taking an average of 21 months. The Israelov family's application is 1 month beyond this average listed time. Eitan Israelov says he understands there may also be delays in the application process because of the pandemic. But whether or not his family's application goes through, he doesn't feel families with children like Liam should have to wait longer than other families, while they are being medically assessed because they disclosed one of the applicants has autism.
We're not ashamed to be here and talk now, so I hope that will give others hope and will change something for others not to go through the same process as we are.
Treat autistics and children on the spectrum and children with special needs better.
Ashley Burr, City News.
Catching killers is our mandate. Catching killers is what we're going to do.
One person has died and 2 others are injured after a shooting here at Burnaby's Market Crossing Mall Thursday evening. It follows a string of shootings across the Lower Mainland tied to ongoing gang conflict.
Is this gang related? Is this related to the ongoing Lower Mainland gang conflict? And the answer is yes, based on the information that we have.
I hit Sergeant Frank Jane confirming Jaskiert Calcat was the person killed in Thursday's shooting and that he was known to police. A white SUV found burning in South Surrey after the shooting is believed to be the same one shooters used in their getaway from Market Crossing.
If you look at your Google Maps or on your computer, you'll see that the fastest route from South Burnaby to South Surrey is through Highway 91, 99, then you take 16th Ave, where you'll finally get to where the vehicle was found burning. If you were driving along that route last night and you have dash cam video, And it's proving that there's a lot of drivers and commuters out there with dashcam video in their cars. We need you to check that footage, and we need you to contact us right away. Contact the Burnaby RCP, contact IHIT through our information line, but do so right away.
Several other shootings have happened over the past 4 weeks, some in very public places. A 19-year-old was gunned down near 13th Avenue and 6th Street in Burnaby. A corrections officer was shot outside Scottsdale Center Mall. A 28-year-old was shot outside Langley's Willowbrook Shopping Center. And a 20-year-old man was shot in a busy Coquitlam Park. And just this past Sunday, a man known to police was killed outside a terminal at Vancouver's airport.
The conflict that's playing itself out on our streets publicly are simply young men in their 20s, mid, late 20s, some even younger, some even their teens. And I think we just rather prefer that they settle their differences more constructively. Somehow they've gotten access to very powerful, deadly weapons. And that's why we're concerned. That's why we're all here, because they've chosen to resolve their differences in a deadly way.
With police and public officials searching for answers, I spoke with 2 former gang members on how to best prevent gang activity from happening in the first place.
Reporting suspicious activity in your neighborhood. You know, if you know that there's somebody is involved, like they have to be more aware of, where these people are. And it's not just the high-ranking gang members that are doing it. There's they got these young kids out there doing this work for them as well. Right? So it's parents being more aware and seeing the patterns of where their kids are at all the time and communicating with the youth.
I believe we need to get invested and support the education system, and prevention, early intervention, targeted intervention need to be key.
Many of the recent shootings have been in public places across the Lower Mainland, leading police forces to band together to deal with the issue. In a statement released after a meeting with the public safety minister, senior police leaders in the region said the level of integration within departments right now is unprecedented.
The end goal is to put these people away, put them in a cold jail cell for a very long time.
In Burnaby, Miranda Fatour, City News.
Police in Vancouver are on the hunt for 2 men accused of mischiefs after 2 separate incidents at the Chinese consulate building in Vancouver. The first incident happened March 22nd. Video shows the first suspect spitting on a plaque dedicated to the Chinese consular general. He is also at one point seen blocking and spitting toward a vehicle, which police say was driven by a consulate employee trying to leave the building. About 2 weeks later, around 3 a.m. on April the 4th, police say another person walked up to the consulate and spray painted the gate and surrounding wall. This man, believed to be between 30 and 40 years old, anyone with information is asked to contact the Vancouver police.
Both of these acts are disrespectful and intolerable, and it's something that as a police force we don't tolerate, and we will be actively and are continue to actively investigate these. Investigators don't believe the men in, as you can see from footage, they are not the same, and they're not responsible for both crimes.
Solidarity! So.
Residents in Richmond gathered at a Burger King on Steveston Highway Friday morning, the scene of the city's latest racist incidents. They're showing their support for community members there. Yesterday, Richmond RCMP sent a release that they were looking for this man who was accused of going on an anti-Asian tirade at customers in the drive-thru back on May the 1st. Doris Ma from the Stand With Asians Coalition says one of the biggest issues right now is knowing what to do when you witness an incident.
The number one thing we have to talk about, the government need to really step up, is to have a very accessible, comprehensive, and multilingual reporting system. And educate the public about which phone number to phone. If you're witnessing a racist attack, such as this one at Burger King, do you call 911? Do you call Crime Stopper? Do you call non-emergency line? Or do you call the hotline that's just established by the BC government? There's 4 different options, and I think people need to know exactly what number to phone.
Reported hate crimes in the Richmond area almost doubled from last year, with 21 files in 2020 compared to 11 in 2019.
controversy days before the Miss Universe pageant, and how Canada's delegate is opening up the conversation on racism in the pageant world.
I want you to see me as a Black woman. Yes, I want you to see color.
The COVID-19 case count in our province continues to trend in the right direction, with the daily case count dipping below 500 for the first time since February the 22nd. BC is reporting 494 cases today and 2 additional deaths. There are 5,548 active cases of COVID-19 in the province, and there was another update to the vaccine eligibility timeline. Anyone 25 and older can book their vaccine, and by the end of the weekend, all adults 18 and older across BC will be eligible to book their vaccination appointment. Breaking news: as the face of Canada's vaccine rollout and military officer in charge, Major General Danny Fortin has left his assignment pending the results of a military investigation. The Public Health Agency of Canada sending out a release late this afternoon saying they will be reviewing their next steps with Major General, and that they have no further comment. The Defense Department doesn't specify the nature of the investigation.
Shorter hours. Some malls have closed a lot of stores.
And I've noticed that these stores have been empty for a long time.
If you feel like you're seeing a lot more of this in the downtown core, it might not be your imagination. 84 street-level businesses have closed up shop between 2020 and the first quarter of 2021, according to the downtown BIA.
I think it could have been a whole lot worse.
Charles Gauthier, BIA president, says government support in the form of wage and rent subsidies helped, but new data released in the 2020 State of Downtown report shows a business community struggling to hold on.
Yeah, we need to get people vaccinated. And then we also need to start encouraging people to come back to work.
Another finding from the report shows working from home shrunk downtown's daytime workforce from about 116,000 people in 2019 to as low as 11,000 people last year.
Those workers, spend on average about $30 a day at restaurants and retail, and it would be much higher for people with expense accounts and take people out for lunch, for business meetings. But we estimated that the loss during the pandemic to retail and restaurants was about $2 million a day.
Just walking around downtown Friday afternoon, lots of clearly visible examples of newly closed shops in spite of long lines and incentives.
We all kind of hope for that V shape. What do you think it's going to look like for Vancouver? Are we going to bounce back, or is it going to be a years-long thing?
I feel like it's going to be a years-long thing.
Well, most of the shops that we were at have stayed open.
Yeah. Definitely won't be right away. It will take some time, I feel like.
Within the next year, so hopefully everything can improve, slowly, but eventually. Yeah.
Do you get a sense that your business community is prepared for that time scale?
Some may be, but I think that it's been very... it's been challenging even now not to have an idea what might happen next month.
Gauthier says a recovery can get underway, but we would need to see at-home workers be able to return, as well as the return of business travel within the province, like conventions. Another worrying detail revealed by the 2020 report was that when people traveled around the province, fewer people were coming to Vancouver. For example, downtown hotel occupancy was 28% in August of 2020, while Penticton's was hovering around 84%. He warns a lot of businesses are also geared to cruise travel, but hopes recovery there can be quick when international travel returns.
And I think there will be pent-up demand from international visitors to come here when it's safe to do so.
In Vancouver, David Zura, City News.
Miss Universe Canada Nova Stevens called out people who flooded her social media accounts with racist comments. In an Instagram post last week, Stevens uploaded screenshots of the messages she received. She was called scary and other derogatory words attacking her ethnicity.
As I stand before you, I want you to see me as a Black woman. Yes, I want you to see color. Because seeing color does not mean you're racist. Instead, it allows you to see the struggles experienced by people of color.
Stevens is the second Black woman to ever hold the Miss Universe Canada title, more than 30 years after the coronation of the first Black Miss Universe Canada, Juliet Powell, in 1989. Based in Vancouver, Stevens was born in Sudan and moved to Canada when she was 6. She's a model, actor, and activist. She's also one of the leaders of Vancouver's Black Lives Matter movement.
There's some that sort of wondered, how did she win? She's not even, Caucasian. So there's some racial ideologies there.
Adeline Cupino is the director of the Miss International of BC and Canada. She also represented the country in the 2004 Miss International pageant.
Representing Canada and not being Caucasian, not being, 6 feet tall with light features. I think I just thrived in the diversity that I was able to represent as a full Filipina. And I wanted to break that stigma of what the standard beauty is for Canada specifically.
In an interview with CityNews last year, Stevens said she advocates for equality.
I want to educate people. I want to have an open dialogue. Your voice, and I've said it time and time again, is the most important and the most powerful weapon that you possess. But when you don't use it, not only do you hurt yourself, you can also hurt others, because again, your silence can be violence.
Cupino says she strives to diversify people's concept of beauty in her pageant.
I hope that we celebrate differences in beauty, not just culture, but, it comes in different shapes and sizes, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But to critically make remarks, I don't condone, and I just hope people would take accountability for everything they say and do online.
Stevens is set to compete for the Miss Universe 2020 crown in Florida Sunday. If she wins, she will become the first Black Miss Universe Canada to hold the title. Cupino says she hopes Stevens makes it far in the competition and that she admires how the Vancouver Queen handled the heartbreaking incident.
I admire how Nova has navigated and accepted these negative remarks towards her. She has turned it into a learning experience where we can learn from as supporters and just viewers of her journey.
In Vancouver, I'm Omni Filipinos, Arvin Joaquin.
Struggling in silence.
Some people feel numb because they just sing this over and over and over again.
The mental health impact of rising anti-Asian racism and why some experts worry that those who need help aren't reaching out.
Preliminary talks are underway about eventually reopening the border between Canada and the United States. The two sides have reportedly begun discussing options more than a year after non-essential land travel was banned in an attempt to stop the spread of COVID-19. While no decisions are imminent, one of the key questions up in the air is whether travelers would need to quarantine after traveling between the two countries. At this point, the U.S. is far ahead of Canada when it comes to vaccinations. A woman who has accused Vancouver Canucks forward Jake Virtanen of sexual assault is suing him. The notice was filed on Wednesday at BC Supreme Court in Kelowna. It says the woman and Virtanen met at a Calgary music festival at the Stampede in 2017. It notes that it was about 2 months later that the alleged sexual assault took place at a West Vancouver hotel. The detailed account claims Virtanen, by his unlawful actions, violated the sexual integrity of the plaintiff, who has not been named and who was a minor at the time of the outlined offense. Virtanen has not yet responded to the civil claim.
The pandemic has taken a toll on everyone's mental health, but it's been particularly difficult for those in the Asian community who are also dealing with a disturbing rise in anti-Asian racism. And while reaching out for support can be helpful, some experts worry that there is a growing number of people who are struggling in silence and won't get the help they need until their illness becomes critical.
Get out of my face! I'm Canadian. I'm gonna give you 2 seconds.
The videos are disturbing, the stats alarming. In Vancouver alone, hate crimes against Asians have risen 717% in the span of a year, according to advocacy group The Representation Project.
People feel sad, people feel angry. Some people feel numb because they just sing this over and over and over again.
Lynn Fang is an associate professor of social work at the University in Toronto and says she too has felt increased levels of anxiety and feelings of helplessness. She says she's been on the receiving end of racist attacks. She's been shoved on the street and even spat on.
I've seen a lot more than what I've seen before, and I start to question, right? I start to question my own safety. I start to question my own physical awareness. There's always this hypervigilance. I worry about when I'm on the street, if someone's going to attack me.
The anxiety combined with repeated videos and images on social media can take a heavy toll. But Fang and other experts say it isn't always easy for those who are Asian or of Asian descent to seek mental health support. Long-standing cultural stigmas around mental illness can be a barrier to care.
Oftentimes, the problem of the individual become amplified. It's like you bring shame to the family.
Certain cultures might not have the language to articulate the mental health issues that in a Western medical system says. For example, the symptoms of depression, anxiety might not be called symptoms of depression or anxiety in various cultures.
The Hong Fook Mental Health Association in Markham, Ontario specifically targets the concerns of Chinese, Cambodian, Vietnamese and Korean communities. Kenneth Lin is the Youth and Family Services lead and says while virtual sessions amid the pandemic have been helpful in reaching more people, there hasn't been a noticeable increase in those seeking services amid the pandemic, a worrying sign.
Around 83%, especially of younger youth, younger than 18 years old, are most emotionally and psychologically impacted by seeing the attacks around them. We are concerned that there's still a large group of youth who aren't articulating or reaching out for support.
The association is now taking an active role in seeking out youth who need help. Joyce Chu is an outreach worker. She gets referrals from school staff or from parents and goes out into the community to meet young people who are struggling and have been isolated or feel alone.
It's my role to find ways to engage with them in small but meaningful ways in order to reconnect.
What's most important to know is that you're not alone and that there are others out there who are experiencing something similar to you and who are out there in support of you.
For a link to the resources available from the Hong Fook Mental Health Association, head to our website, citynews.ca/extras. For City News, I'm Erica Natividad.
And that brings us to the end of the show. It is also my last show here on City News in Vancouver, and I'd like to just take a moment to share my gratitude with you for sharing Vancouver stories with me over this past 3 years. I've loved every minute of it and appreciated it very much. And it's not quite goodbye. I am very excited to announce I'll also be joining the team at City News in Toronto. But for now, I'd just like to reiterate my gratitude to you and the wonderful colleagues that I've had the pleasure of working with here in Vancouver. It's been wonderful. Please accept my best wishes. Have a great weekend and a warm summer.